players, the personalities who come from around the world to play professional soccer in the United States.
In a world where some call it football, football, or soccer, they dare to call it foosball. One thinks New York is blue, the other thinks New York is red. Soccer in America from a German perspective. Let them put some sauerkraut on your hot dog and join them for the Schnitzel Boys USA Hour.
Yeah!
Yes. USA. 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 USA.
It's the USA Hour.
It's the USA Hour, in case you were wondering. This is it.
And USA is all about getting stuff done, especially in New York. It might take 12 years. I know. Let me give you a quick timeline of the Red Bull Stadium, just for context. The Red Bull Stadium was signed, sealed, and delivered on September 10th, 2001. Do you remember what happened the next day? Terrible tragedy. USA recovered. 9/11 essentially canceled the Red Bull Stadium. Then they had to wait till 04-05 to sort of do it again. And they announced it in 04-05 with a little picture there on the New Jersey waterfront. And then that kind of never, it was only 80% done. And then Red Bull bought this team, and then part of the purchase was and then we'll cover the rest of the stadium cost, and we'll just get it done. And I think Red Bull paid for quite a bit out of their pocket to just finish that stadium, get it done, and it opened in 2009. So that was from 2001 to 2009 was the final step.
So
that's Jersey.
And you started in 96, and so we're going to beat you again.
Perhaps. But technically the Red Bulls bought it in 2006. In their defense,
it doesn't matter when you what the date is on the contract. It matters when you play games there. In my opinion, anyway. I guess this is. Why do we talk about this? Why are we bringing this up? Because the stadium's official. The city council approved the Willets Point redevelopment plan phase 2, the URLURP process. Universal Land Use Regulation Procedure, something like that.
Only one lady voted against because she apparently
only one lady. Yeah, there's been very little. All the votes, whether on the community board level or in the planning commission or in the city council, were either unanimous or with very little opposition. There's no. I kept waiting for somebody to come up. I mean, I guess there's an appeals period. Somebody can still sue but hopefully this is,
I heard there's still one process left. Am I wrong?
Well, Eric Adams can veto it. That's the last step. Yeah. And but he is not going to, presumably, since he was celebrating outside with the fans, outside of the city council, outside of City Hall rather, and. So yeah, the timeline is 2027. Should be ready after the year after the World Cup. So the countdown is on. We have, I guess, less than 30 games left at Yankee Stadium, and I have to say, we went on Saturday feeling a little preemptively nostalgic about it. I mean, obviously the stadium's going to be sick. It's already the renderings are cool. There's a cube that people are going to walk through to come in. It's going to be a fine. It's going to be look at you. Your browser doesn't automatically block when you type nycfc.com. That works. That's good. That's good.
This is a new browser. Look, you guys are going to beat Miami 2-1.
Naming rights. Fun. I think naming rights sponsor stadium is a weird name. I don't know why they picked that.
Okay, Bjorn. So first question: what do you want it to be called?
What do I want it to be called?
It's going to be called the Mini Etihad or something.
I was texting the people from my old soccer team, and we were thinking if we all kicked in, we could maybe afford to buy the naming rights, and then we could call it the D Boone All Star Stadium. But I mean, we all know it's going to be the Etihad. Sadly,
is that a legit MLS sponsor, or how does that work? So, Etihad, are they one of NYCFC's sponsors?
Well, they're the CFG. I mean, you know, they're the airline that is the Abu Dhabi airline that pays these exorbitant sponsoring rights. You know, that's part of the financial mechanism. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking Dude Wipes Complex. Or
Dude Wipes are no more. That's over. The Dude Wipes
shut that brand. Another brand.
Dude Wipes. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know what happened exactly, but no longer. Yeah, no longer. They've been replaced by some very Trojan. No, some very
Trojan
boring
Stadium
some very boring. Well, I mean, it's F. Scott Fitzgerald referred to this area as the Valley of Ashes, so that would be a pretty cool.
Ashhole Stadium?
That would be a pretty cool. Calling the stadium the Valley of Ashes would be pretty awesome.
No, you call it the Ashlock. You know, lock, like Scottish for lakes. It's right by the river, right? So you call it the Ashlock Stadium.
But a river is not the Ashlock. Nice. All right. Yeah, I guess
I prefer that.
I'm trying to raise the level. I'm talking about literature.
Sorry.
I'm talking about The Great Gatsby. works of art.
Yeah,
but Ashlock, the Ashlock Stadium. Yeah, let's go.
Fun and joke for the Germans. You think the stadium's going to be called the Valley of the Ashes Stadium?
No, it's not. It's going to be called the Etihad. Because that's who's paying for it.
What I will say is the Valley of the Ashes would be a great name of a stadium. It's not a great connotation because it means you always burn down and stuff. You always lose. Right. So there'd be like another night of ashes in the Valley of the Ashes. But it's a very poetic name. I do like it.
It'd be also sort of intimidating for the opposition. You're coming to the Valley of Ashes.
I always felt, though, in all realness, now granted it's not an NYCFC thing or even Red Bulls thing, I felt if New York City ever got a stadium, there really is only one name for that stadium. And that stadium is Pele Stadium.
The Eric Adams Stadium.
No, not Eric Adams. It changes every 8 years. It's the mayor. I know, it should be the Rudy Giuliani Stadium.
Oh, it's going to be the Pele Stadium?
Should be the Pele Stadium. Why not? Everyone knows what that is. It's Pele. Give him respect.
As you can see from those renderings where the naming rights sponsor placeholders already put in, this is not going to be about poetry or honoring deserving figures of. This is about cold hard cash because this shit's going to be expensive,
right?
And somehow they're going to have to pay for it. And
Pele
is not going to pay for it.
No, rest in peace. But it'd be such a fun thing where you get heading down to Pele. Yeah, it's at the Pele this Sunday. It's such a great thing. However, for a guy who goes to Dignity Health Sports Park Complex every other Sunday to watch the Galaxy play, okay, you just gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta sell your name.
The highest bidder gets to call it whatever they want.
The Enzite Male Enhancement Stadium. Remember that old scam that shut down years ago with fake male enhancement pills?
Oh boy! Well, we have a few years. No, what were we gonna ask?
FC Dallas.
Ask me anything. Ask me anything about the stadium. I will tell you.
Excellent MLS quiz then about a different stadium.
Oh,
what was
our
FC
stadium?
Dallas's?
Our stadium.
I will in a second. What was FC Dallas's stadium called when it first opened? Quiz. Now it's called Toyota Stadium or something. One of 3 Toyota stadiums in the thing. It was called Pizza Hut Park. Is what it was
That's
called.
pretty cool. It's not bad.
Very cool name. However, it was like the second ever stadium built, and it wasn't like done by opening. They were just like, it's got to be done by June, and they kind of not all the seats were maybe screwed in and stuff. So it was a perfect way for all the articles to be like medium. No, what was it? It was just like medium or undercooked. It was like the undercooked Pizza Hut open to a medium size opening or something like that, or like an opportunity to be medium cooked punny. It was very
punny, some punny.
Yeah, putty. Anyway, so let's talk NYCFC Stadium. Tell me, I know it's cool. It looks cool. I love the cube. What's in it? What kind of food do they have? What kind of beer do they have? Do they have that 3D lasering? Like, what do you want in the stadium?
3D lasering? What?
Remember the 3D laser bobblehead?
Oh, the bobbleheads? Well, we don't know. We don't know any of this. There's been a lot of talk about how this is going to be integrated into the community. There was talk about local food trucks. I mean, Queens has a pretty good food scene. So there's lots of. I mean, obviously, we don't know this.
Zum Stammtisch. Maybe zum Stammtisch will have
Some Stammtisch. There could be some
food
German.
truck there.
Some currywurst. Is there going to be some currywurst?
I
I'm
hope
not
so.
holding my breath for that, but that would be fun. Yeah, I think everything is local. I mean, they're building a whole neighborhood. This is not just the stadium. There's going to be a hotel. There's going to be schools. There's going to be affordable housing. Some of this is already happening. Why are you making that skeptical face?
Well, because whenever when Red Bull Stadium, it was the same thing. They always announce it with others, and the others more times than not tend to either not happen or happen in a limited capacity.
In this case, that's not going to happen because phase one actually, some of the housing is ahead of the stadium. They're already building it, so it's not an afterthought.
Move, do you think? Are you going to move there? Do you think? To the house
I have to live right next to it.
Yeah, easier commute.
I mean, there's all those places in next to Red Bull Arena. I don't know. There's some people do that. I'm always wondering, like, who lives there? But
I debated that, and literally it was like, this will be convenient for me 17 days out of the 365.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Rest of the days will be convenient for me.
Currently, it takes me 20 minutes to get to Citi Field. It's not like I have a terrible commute there. So
and the
I don't know.
Will be the same, right? The parking isn't changing, is it? It's the same parking complex.
The train is very good. The 7 train is almost door to door for me. It's not a problem. I mean, sometimes I drive because it's nice, but yeah, I don't know. I have no plans to live right next to the stadium. There's a whole neighborhood sprouting around there. There's also plans to build a casino next to Citi Field. I don't know. I mean, generally the areas around a stadium are not the most desirable to live.
No, cheap property.
So we'll see. We'll see if this works. There's definitely high ambition in terms of making this. They're letting community organizations can use it. Like, there's all this kind of talk. So they're hoping to make it part of a neighborhood.
How big is the baseball mound going to be on the field? Is it going to be
baseball?
In the middle of it,
no. It's just soccer. There's not going to be any. I know this is confusing because there's been so much baseball in our stadiums.
Are you going to do FIFA? That's actually a question on the Reddit boards. The fans are like, we're going to do FIFA minimums because screw everybody else.
No, we're going to keep the small field. Yeah, that's what I've been.
You think? I hope not.
No, I don't think so.
Better not.
I'm joking. But I mean, that's been so overblown. The whole like small field in Yankee Stadium. It's not that much smaller. Like one should not spin theories based on the size of Yankee Stadium, because it's always been.
Can I put my straw hat on? My what's it called? My
tin
hat
foil
on for a second.
Okay.
I'm very
Conspiracy?
curious. It could easily be an illusion, but I have a feeling that MLS fields, on average, are smaller than fields in like the Bundesliga or Liga MX or the English Prem.
Oh, you
could
think
be wrong
so?
about that. And I have a feeling that years ago, when they were building these stadiums, MLS was like, make it like hockey, like smaller the better. Like, it'd be faster that way or something.
Really? Do you think so?
It's just my tinfoil hat. Like, it could be when I was watching Monterrey versus Inter Miami last week, right? You watched that game too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Great game, right? Huge. It felt like a UEFA Champions League game. It's like mega stadium, big field. Does it feel like an illusion just because the stands are bigger?
There's that. There's also camera position.
Camera's higher, right?
Camera position makes a big difference. There was one of the big MLS Twitter accounts came to Yankee Stadium this weekend and was like, oh, in person, it's not so bad. And I've been saying that for years. It's like, on TV, it looks terrible.
Right.
Because they have the camera like way back.
Right.
And so they zoom in. And so everything's super compressed. So it looks like they're all basically
It's still the FIFA minimums, by the way. I mean, it's still the
It's
minimums.
all it's the minimum, but
Yeah.
it's not less than the minimum. I mean,
Right.
Glenn Crooks, journalist and commentator, he says he's walked it and he's measured it, and it is it is what it is. It's the minimum. It's not like.
But
there's
curious.
there's nothing to there's no there, and when you're there in person, it looks like a normal field. I mean, it's a little bit less wide than some, but that's been the explanation for everything. When the team was bad, it was like, oh, it's because the field's so small. When the team was good, it's like, oh, it's because the field's so small.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
the explanation for everything. It's not that big a deal. Anyway, but the TV stuff makes a big difference depending on camera angles, and you can't tell. I don't think. I mean, really, the thing that's the most easy to see is the distance from the penalty box to the corner flag. That you can sort of tell. The width, the length is very hard to
Right,
tell. I feel like.
But
from
my
the-
bigger thing is, I'm wondering with that Monterey game, I'm like watching, it's like, what an event. Imagine if this was MLS looked like every weekend. Like, this is such a great atmosphere.
Well, they were
game,
72,000 in Kansas City this weekend. The Messi
Right,
effect.
but it didn't have the. I don't know if they zoomed the cameras in too much or something. It just. Like, this is something I've had for years with MLS. I'm just curious, that might just be a production value thing or a production thing. Not necessarily. I'm just wondering if the field in Kansas City and the New York Red Bulls and everywhere is the same measurements as like Real Madrid or Bayern München, or like, I'm wondering if it's just an illusion that it feels like a little smaller. I don't know. Like I said, it could be camera placement, could be it's a little smaller, could just be the illusion of just being less smaller stands. So
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, I don't think. Well,
but either way, I'm very happy for you. Got your stadium and NYCFC to commemorate properly. You guys got to win this weekend
we got to win. I mean, it was kind of the pressure was on because
against the worst team in league
because
history,
the
right?
worst team
Revolution?
in league history. Holy oh.
Not league history. Worst team in league history is probably Chivas USA's expansion season. I would have to say.
No, New England are struggling, and we were able to win. I mean, I will say our team is still struggling. By the way, I'm just looking this up. According to the internet, I don't know. Red Bull Arena, the field is 120 yards by 75 yards.
Right.
And Bayern Munich is 115 by 75 yards. So actually 5 yards shorter.
Slimmer. Interesting.
I mean shorter. Like the width is the same.
Stubbier.
And
yeah,
it's
shorter.
5 yards shorter in length.
Interesting. So I guess a lot of it
according to-
does lead to it being
It's
an
probably
illusion a little bit.
camera angle. Yeah.
I'm
anyway,
a fan of higher cameras, by the way. I think for that reason.
well, higher is okay, but when it's like in case of Yankee Stadium,
It's further away.
because it's so
it's
far
that angle,
away,
right.
the lens needs to be zoomed in, and then
Right.
everything gets compressed, and they look
That's
like
just
they're
never-
all playing on a
Now-
field the size of a gas station.
Riddle me this.
Yes.
That's been an issue. This is, again, MLS side talk. Why did they never, ever, maybe the Yankees would never allow this. Why didn't they just put a giant, like they for golf courses, put a giant metal stand, like camera stand a few meters off the side of the field, like next to the pitcher's mound, and have that be where the camera is for broadcasts? Why do they have to use the Yankees camera booths? Not, you know what I mean? Couldn't that have been a solution?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. But I
Like,
mean,
if I were in charge of
guess
Apple
that's-
TV or MLS, I'd be like, whenever we have games, we're gonna build we have a temporary metal structure, tall, where you put the camera on and it's right next to the field, so you look down, and it essentially would probably make it look like a soccer stadium. Honestly,
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is already such a cluster F. Turning this into a. I guess they're not looking to add extra projects like that. And maybe also people perhaps don't care enough. I don't know. Yeah, that's always really irked me. That. And
you know what I'm saying. That
no,
seems
it's
like
a
a fixable
fixable.
problem.
It's a fixable problem,
Right.
but it probably would require some resources that are scarce, especially for this kind of thing. City Field's a little better. But now these games are numbered. We're gonna what I was gonna say though, if we're gonna talk about our performance, I got there early and I watched the warm-ups, and really we as a group, this team does not put the ball on frame as much as you'd expect for professional. Like even in the, and I mean, obviously this is sort of.
You mean the Elias Manuela all the
this
time?
Is so I don't know. This is it's sort of meaningless. It's like, but it's like there's warm ups. There's the second string goalies in. There's no defenders, and everybody's just cracking shots. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, a lot of these are going wide. They're missing a lot of these, and there really is no, like why not try and hit it on goal? And this really continued, and it's not just like. And obviously, it's not just this game, and it's not just like, oh, missed by a little bit. There's some shanking going on in this group where people just like hit it way off the mark. And yeah, I mean, it's just.
Well, is that a clue to what Tata Martino was talking about?
Oh, what was Tata Martino talking about?
Well, he's talking about how MLS roster rules that they don't have enough money to have a real roster. It's like he didn't play. I don't know if you noticed against the Monterrey game, he did 0 substitutions because he had no trust in his bench, which I think is a total fu to the bench. Like if I'm on the bench, I'm like,
right.
But that.
Well,
was
I mean, they were also losing.
He was sending.
They were also losing badly, and it was just like
it was a clear message he was sending to the league. Because immediately thereafter, his comments were MLS's roster rules are limited, in which we can't compete against Mexican clubs. Because they can pay for benches and we can't. 100% throwing all his American players under the bus. Because he only
Look
plays
at these
Argentinian
chumps.
players. I know.
Look at these chumps that we have to. They're really just here to bring hold the cup, hand Messi the Gatorade cup.
Exactly. Now that also a side story, because I've seen that before, and I'm always like, two things. Maybe that's what Nick Cushing is doing wrong. Maybe he's training them to miss the goal. And it's bad training to train them to get in the goal.
Everybody, obviously, the fan base is unanimous in that Cushing's the problem. But there's something going on with them. But anyway, yeah. No, that's all I have to say.
Well, the other side story is I went to an open practice at Red Bull Arena for the U.S. men's national team once back in the day when Jürgen Klinsmann was coach. And Jürgen Klinsmann was on the mic, and he's like, hey, I'm doing this thing as coach. I'm making our practices open, more accessible to the fans, blah, blah, blah. And they did the same thing, this kicky, it was just a training, so they did this cross kick. And this was Clint Dempsey, and this was Josie Altidore, and this was, the prime guys, Michael Bradley. And they were just really missing it. They were really screwing it up,
Yeah.
And the whole time, I'm like, Klinsmann, show him how it's done. He's just standing there as head coach. And then all of a sudden there's a cross randomly towards the end. He's just looking at it. He's just there. And then Klinsmann, just out of instinct, just slams it right in the goal. Perfect shot. Like, best shot of the night. And everyone gave him like a clap. And it goes to show you there's just some players are talented.
He was just better. He was just still better than Josie Altidore.
Yeah, at 47 or however old he was, or 50, he was still probably the most lethal striker on that field.
Well, so for me, it was sort of a conflicting thing because, I hate, because obviously scoring goals is hard, because otherwise there would be more of them if it was just, it's not like people miss on purpose. But,
right.
And so I hate when the pundits are like, oh, you should have made that. Oh, that's a sitter. Oh, this is and then the expected goals is like 0.3, only 3 out of 10 ever go in. So usually I'm like, scoring goals is hard. But then watching these guys, I was like, man, they should just hit the goal more. Like that just, I would just emphasize that, I guess. If I was the coach, I was like, just make sure you really hit it on the, there's a lot of like fine, we want to twist it in the corner. And it's like, whatever. You can't score if you don't hit the target.
Right.
Stupid. Obviously stupid thing to say, but
Elias
like
Manuel
in warm up. Anyway, we did hit the goal 2 times. Our new winger Ojeda got one, and Julian Fernandez, our other winger, came off the bench. He looks like most of the game. He looks like he does not know what this sport is. He looks like he's never played before. But then he pulls out these bangers, and he had another one. He like curled one pass that we were all in disbelief. It's like he's been like just sort of cruising around the field like he doesn't belong there, and then one of those. But
if only you could play New England Revolution every week at home.
I mean, but on the well, yeah, sure, that'd be good. But I mean, just looking at the looking at the table, there's not that many. Everybody's very close together. There's not a lot of like. Even Miami is averaging way less than 2 points a game. Nobody's like running away. We won one game and we're 2 points away from a playoff spot. So no one's running away with it. Everybody's in it except New England and San Jose.
MLS baby. Well, over the weekend, Inter Miami had a big game at Kansas City, which you alluded to, and there were two stars on the field, right? Inter Miami's Lionel Messi and Sporting Kansas City's Ehrlich Tommy. Isn't that first name Ehrlich? I just forget.
Yeah, I know that guy.
Ehrlich Tommy, the German, the good German dude on Sporting Kansas City,
he's got that Opel Manta kind of look too. Like he's got that like German. He looks like a proper German guy.
Yeah, but he was on the field. He's got a story for his grandkids. He got 2 great goals. Again, 65,000 in the stadium. I love seeing that.
72,000. Yeah.
Good for them. You know, back in the day when the Kansas City Wizards, that was their home stadium. And, and they would draw 15,000 to 20,000 at most. It's nice they went back and brought 70,000 new fans with them. The Messi mania continues, but it leads to another Appleism moment where after the game, Kalen Kyle on Apple was just like, oh my God, Lionel Messi, best player in the world. He is invincible. He just brings it every game.
He played a pretty sick pass.
Yes. However, what did he do 3 days ago? What did that whole team not do 3 days ago?
Oh, fail
miserably in Mexico. So he's just like he's a flawless play, brings it every game. Inter Miami crushing. It's like, yo, lady, they just slammed out of the Champions Cup 2 days ago.
CONCACAF Champions Cup is not on Apple. That's not Kale and Kyle's department. She doesn't care.
You're learning, Bjorn. You're learning.
She doesn't care about that.
Just a little fluff goes a long way.
But how about the Crew, though?
The Crew
saving MLS honor by the skin of their teeth.
This sort of goes into what the big topic of this episode is about, where, after week 1, it was embarrassing. We talked about last week. It's like, oh, they're all.
Yeah, it looked like everybody's going to go out. But
I thought maybe Inter Miami has a chance when Messi's back and stuff. But that didn't happen. Inter Miami had themselves kind of a rough game. Monterrey beat them 3-1.
And there were videos of Monterrey fans stomping on
Messi's jersey. I love it. In response to Messi stomping on Mexico's jersey during the 2022 World Cup.
Meanwhile, in Kansas City, there were the SKC players were posting photos of themselves with Messi's jersey after.
Yeah, it's a different environment.
It's not the same.
But anyway, but Columbus Crew went down to Tigres, got themselves a 1-1, and I texted you, right? I was like, they were losing pretty bad those first 5 minutes, and I'm like, this is gonna be a blowout.
Yeah, they were getting killed the first one because there was a second goal that got disallowed, and then there was another. They had a couple of great chances. It looked like they were gonna get absolutely slaughtered. But Patrick Schulte, who had a huge blunder early on,
just like Drake Callender.
Redeemed himself big time. Drake Callender is not having a good year. He was good last year. I thought last year he made a lot of saves for them that they needed him to make. And this year he's not making them, and that's really hurting them. Defensively, this Miami team is pretty vulnerable. Even though Suarez now looks like he can walk again. It's like the Lazarus of soccer.
He starts limping around the 80th minute. I think he drains his knee, gets a good 80 minutes. So anyway, but Columbus Crew went down and did it. They are the surviving MLS team.
Yeah,
and they did it on a budget. They did it with American players. He did everything right.
And Tigres, that's no joke of a team.
100%. They did it like Columbus Crew. Wilfred Nancy continues to just impress. Remember, I was really critical of him last week for benching Cucho Hernandez that first leg. But he got his cake and got to eat it too. Cucho got in. He got to get through. He got to punish Cucho, and the team still got through. So excellent management from Wilfred Nancy. But so after the game, Tata Martino sort of gave a statement. He didn't put any of his subs on the field, which I don't think I've ever seen in at least a high stakes professional game before. 0 subs, especially in today's day where you allowed 5. And afterwards, he's like, I didn't want to put my young players in that situation. That's what he said, which is also odd to me. And he's like, until MLS changes its roster rules, we can never compete with Mexican clubs. Now, he has a point. However, between Monterrey and Inter Miami, who has the higher wage bill, Bjorn?
I mean, exactly. And it's like he's going to complain. He's got like Messi on his team and he's going to whine about like he can't get, like, come on.
Can't get a win. Whereas Wilfred Nancy got a win with some sub I've never heard of and Aiden Morris.
He's got Messi and Suarez and he's
Busquets.
complaining about, and Busquets is complaining about roster rules. Give me a break, Tata Martino.
Now, where he has a point, and this leads to sort of these new MLS dealios, is although Inter Miami has as big, if not a bigger, wage bill, it's the distribution that's greatly different.
No, I mean, listen, MLS should spend more money. That's no question. There's no question.
And they're about
And
to.
they're about to. They're trying to, but they, they're like. Can I roll out my favorite metaphor again? MLS, they like it. They like the
Co-op,
Manhattan
yeah.
the Manhattan co-op building. It's
Right.
like the new owners want the new roof deck, and the people who bought it in the '80s for $20,000, they're like, we don't have that. We
Right.
can barely afford the maintenance. What are you talking about?
And there's only
So-
three of those guys.
And there's only
only
but
three of those
but they're on the board. They've been there forever.
Forever, yeah.
And so the new guys try to be nice, but they're like, come on.
However, Bjorn.
this carpet has mold in it.
However, Bjorn, at a co-op meeting, sometimes you have to be creative. So this past co-op meeting, by that the MLS owners governor board meeting,
Somebody snuck one past.
They had a special guest. Do you know who that special guest was?
Gianni Infantino.
Gianni Infantino, FIFA
And he
sitting
told
FIFA
them to
president.
spend more money.
He said, be bold with your spending. That is the first time in league history that a FIFA president... Do you remember the Sepp Blatter? Were you a fan when the Sepp Blatter versus Don Garber stuff was happening?
I can't say that I followed it, no.
Sepp Blatter randomly... Because Sepp Blatter ignored MLS the entire... He had nothing to do with it. And then in an interview, he's like, yeah, soccer never hit in the United States. MLS is a very disappointing league. Or so. He just like threw MLS under the bus. He's like, yeah, MLS never took. No one really cares about soccer in the U.S. He was just very dismissive of it. And Don Garber had to respond, obviously. And he's like, Sepp Blatter, you're welcome to attend any game.
We don't
We'll
care.
copy the games.
MLS doesn't care about Sepp Blatter either.
Well, but he's like, come to a Seattle game. This would have been maybe 07 or something. He's like, come to a Seattle game. Pretty much Don Garber had to save face a little bit. So it's a very different environment for Gianni Infantino, who's about to host like 3 tournaments between the Club World Cup and the Women's World Cup.
He's got to hype it. He can't be like, oh, nobody cares. It's like, no, this is the next thing. Spend some money, guys.
He went to the meeting, offered to spend money, and also, so they announced 3 key changes that are going to start this summer during the season.
Yeah, during the season.
Which is
Explain.
also...
Can you explain this in a way that
yes,
will make us not pass out in the middle of it?
I'll try because I did a little research and
Okay.
I followed up my
All
own
right.
questions. Okay.
All right.
So, and also it's been hot news and different people have had different perspectives. Jesse Marsh had one I'm very interested in. But anyway, so there's 3 big rule changes that are happening.
Okay.
Okay. The first thing, which we've already talked about on this podcast, but I want to offer now new clarification, is yes, every team starting this summer will now have 6 DP slots. That is 3 senior spots and 3 U22 spots separate. Under the old rules, one was contingent of the other. I think if you had one, you could have 3, or you could have 3 or 4 or some crap. That's all. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Every team has 3 senior spots and 3 U22 spots.
U22 spots.
Or they have 2 senior spots and 4 under 22 spots and $2 million for GAN. Those are your 2 options you can make as a club.
Which that's what everybody's going to do.
Yeah, that's the better one. That's what I would do if I were a team manager, because you get 4 young
2 million
DPs.
is a lot. 2 million a game is.
$2 million, get yourself a Dante Van Zier or something, like a good solid European dude to add on that roster. But anyway, so that's rule change 1, which I feel encourages the bigger spending in a way, right? That's like,
Well, except if everybody, it takes 1 DP spot away in a way.
what do you mean?
Because
It adds
everybody's
2.
going to go for the 2 and 4.
Well, it's 6 either way. It's 6 either way.
Yeah, but the U22 spots are not quite as, because those are hit or miss. I mean, ask any NYCFC fan. We've spent big money on those spots, but they're not like
That leads to
heavy
the second
hitters
rule change.
necessarily.
I'm glad you brought that up. That leads to the second rule change.
Oh, the buyout thing?
The second rule change is, and this is the one that Jesse Marsh had a problem with. The second rule change is every club now gets 2 buyouts versus the one. I didn't really know this was a big deal, but essentially what a buyout means is you can get rid.
The mixed discarute rule.
You can get rid of your mistakes faster and quicker now.
Mixed
Back
discarute.
back then, it was, and then Jesse Marsh, who's been a player and a coach over 3 clubs and whatnot, he's like, in his entire history in MLS, they only had to use the buyout rule once. And he didn't love that this now encourages owners to be a little more reckless with their essentially with their spending, and just take more risks on unknowns. I don't know. It was interesting.
This seems like, I think those buyouts get used very infrequently. I would say.
Right, that's what he's saying.
This is, I don't think this will have that much of an impact.
No, I don't think it have much of an impact either. But essentially, all it does is it lets owners give more wiggle room for mistakes. They're allowed to buy a mixed Discarud in January and get rid of him in May without having a big financial impact.
Well, we got rid of mixed Discarud like 3 years in, and he had a long contract.
And you needed CFG for that or something, right?
No, they just had to. I mean, CFG. I think CFG had a.
He had to sign a Manchester City contract, right?
Well, I think they had a separate agreement. I think with him, so they were like, okay, we're going to buy you out of MLS, but then they still employed him in other teams, like he was playing in Cyprus and all over the place. So they honored their commitment.
Yeah, but they had to get him off MLS's books.
Nowadays they used the buyout for that.
Nowadays, you don't need a large organization to help you out with that. You can just be like, I'm buying you out, bye-bye. Go off to Cyprus.
Well, now you can do 2. That was, so now you have 2, but most teams don't even use their 1, so that may not have a big impact.
Right. So that's a little, I guess that's the second rule. It's a thing, but like you said, who knows what kind of impact it's going to have. Hans Wolf, but good point that money needs to be infused more MLS 4.0 gets referred back to MLS 3.0. Yeah, and that leads to this third thing, which I will preface is very much a parody rule, and I don't love it. The third rule is this, third and sort of final change, is that apparently when teams used to sell players, so I imagine when Tati Castellanos was sold, I guess it's weird because they sold it to another club. But anyway, let's just pretend they sold. How much did they sell Tati for? Do you remember?
20 million.
20 million. That's huge, right? Under MLS rules, they were only allowed to take 1.2 million of that and turn it into GAM for player acquisition. That's it. Could have been $100 million transfer. 1.2 is your cap. To reinvest it back in your roster, which I guess I didn't really realize. And to me, that's insane. The rule now is doubling that. So now it's 2.4, not 1.2.
Still not a lot.
Still not a lot at all. And I think it's just to encourage the fact it's not how much you sell it for, it's how many players you sell. I think that's
Isn't it also like it used to be per transfer and now it's like a total sum or the other way around? Like it's changed?
It's still per transfer.
Okay.
No, you're right. They might be capped at 2 a year, actually.
Something
I think they might be capped at 2 transfers a year.
Yeah.
So if they sell 3 players, it's still only the 4.8 million, the 2.4 times 2. So that's a new rule adjustment. So it's better, but it's still bad because I googled it. I'm like, well, hold on. A, how much can they keep, and B, where does that money go? They can keep 95% of their transfer, which is more than I realized. However, what happens is the league then gives it to them in cash, and they can spend it on anything they want, just not anything player related.
Like build a stadium, for example.
Building a stadium, for example. And to me, that's 100% a parity rule, right? That's like to protect your New Englands.
I guess so. Yeah.
Because I feel a club. So my big thing with all this is these rules are built to encourage more foreign players. None of these are pro academy rules. That's A. And B, that whole you can't resell your money. It doesn't incentivize your academies at all. Like, shouldn't they be allowed to? If I sold John Tolkien for my academy for $20 million, I want to take that $20 million and go buy 4 new players with it, right? Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, but that's gonna. Well, because as
player
long as
market.
but as long as they have all these other restrictions, they can't just like let one team all of a sudden like have 20 million extra dollars. That's crazy.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
can't-
saying.
that
It's
is-
a
that's-
parity
that
rule
doesn't work. Yeah,
that
right.
I as a fan have no interest in. I'm like, you can get rid of that. I don't know about you, but I'm just like,
Well,
get rid of that.
but I mean, it's in keeping with all the other rules. Like, I mean, you and I are thinking they should just sort of open the floodgates anyway, more so than they are.
Well,
But I
this
mean, within the
specifically,
context,
though, this specifically is a club-generated money, though. Like there's two conversations here. Should a rich guy be able to just give him $1 billion and spend blankly on players? That I'm not really all for. But if
Okay.
a club earns its own income off the player it creates, to me that's like a positive soccer market.
yeah, except these are so disproportionate to the salary bills, you know, because like, for example, the Philadelphia Union, they have their whole team gets like 17 million or something. So if then all of a sudden they have a big transfer and you're like, all right, now add 20 million to that, but just one time, like, how's that going to work? Like, you're just going to, for 1 year, you're just going to like,
I'm not saying be dependent on it, but you're allowed to use the money.
Kylian Mbappe for 1 year and then like let him go again. I mean, that's
But
just
no, hold on, Bjorn. You're explaining how every club in the world works. Okay, well, MLS is the only league.
no,
where we don't do that.
no. But like but it's not just. But you have there has to be some consistency. That's the same with financial fair play. You can't just like, for 1 year, like inject all this money and then.
Right.
So
No,
that's,
I'm all
that's
about
why that
rules. I
exists.
think in Italy, when they had their huge thing in 2004, they instilled some rules, and one rule was like you can't spend money you don't have. And I'm like, really? That wasn't a rule
that's
already?
That's the whole thing. Yeah,
I'm not
But,
against rules like that, but like this rule specifically is like, let's make sure nobody has any extra money for players. That's what it's saying. It's like you can do whatever you want with your money. Wipe your
Well,
butt.
a little bit of extra
But you-
money. No, they get
yeah.
a little bit of extra money, but not a lot of extra money. I mean, I would characterize these rule changes as pretty modest. This is not the
They're modest and they're
this
built
is not the
to
deluge. Yeah.
right. It's not an overhaul. Like I, as a fan, want the overhaul. I want the transparency. I want the
Well,
soft
there's
cap. I
more to
want-
come, right? They've been teasing that they're thinking about a lot of stuff. They want to get it right. They're not going to. This was just like the immediate middle of the season because time's of the essence. They have like three transfer windows left until Messi's contract is up. So it's not
one, I
like
think one or his contract's up in
it's
2025.
25. Well, so they
There's
have
three,
this,
I guess, including
they have
next
the winter, the summer. So they have
Summer,
three
winter,
left.
summer.
So now's the time. Like it's not. They can't wait too long. But supposedly there's other stuff coming. This is not the big overhaul.
It's not a big overhaul. However, it increases spending overall for every club. All these
Yeah.
choices are increasing. So clubs can have 60Ps now, or like the 60Ps with the GAM. Clubs keep a little bit more of their income that they can reinvest as GAM. So hypothetically, the potential for more GAM is there. And then the buyout clause, which is not, that's just a flexibility clause. But all these rules are to increase buying like established foreign players. None of these rules incentivize academy use. And to me personally, that's always been a big issue. But with Gianni Infantino, with the World Cup coming up, they're 100% being like, let's just buy players. I think academy creation was not given any sort of extra help in these latest changes.
Okay. Yeah. Right. But I mean, what would you suggest?
I mean, I want to blow it all up, and I want them to keep 100% of their player sales and then reinvest it in their squad.
I mean, I think in general, the philosophy, this encourages the acquisition of younger players, which I think is generally what we want, right? We don't necessarily.
Right,
I mean,
but that's
everybody-
that is a good thing. But it's also younger Argentinian players. Let's be serious here. I mean, they all come from Argentina. Maybe a couple
for
from Uruguay or
the
Paraguay.
for the young DP spots,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, probably.
I guess a handful, like Noah Eiley, like maybe a handful.
But
of
this
European
also,
guys,
but I mean, I think that fosters competition for the academy
true.
kids. I think that's probably a positive.
My big thing, and this is again counterintuitive to maybe the project hitting the World Cup. Jesse Marsh again on this podcast I highly recommend listening to it. It's we call it Soccer podcast, or if it's called the CBS one. Jesse Marsh had because he's been there. He was in the boardrooms with Jim Curtin. They had this meeting a couple of years ago about academy incentive or something, and it clearly de-incentivized it. And then him and Jim Curtin were the only two guys in the room of 30 clubs that actually played their kids. It's like no one else is playing. We're the only two people playing our kids. And, it's a league with no relegation. It's
play
a league
bunch
with
of kids.
parity.
We had like.
I'm talking, this is like 5-6 years ago.
Oh, okay.
This is back when he was a coach in MLS. So this is before.
Right.
This is back in the day. No, now, nowadays it's a little more. I'd say Red Bulls, Philly, NYCFC does good. Maybe Colorado Rapids is probably in there. Maybe San Jose, maybe-ish. But, 30 clubs, no relegation, parity. What's the risk? Why aren't a lot of clubs playing more American players? That's my big thing. And I don't, there used to be more Americans on the field. When we played Monterrey, there were as many Americans playing for Monterrey as there were for Inter Miami.
Right.
With Brandon Vasquez versus, I guess there was one more on the Inter Miami. They had.
We had 4. Yeah, I was actually talking to somebody about this on set. We had I think 4 or 5 American starters.
Half is okay.
On NYCFC. That's not bad.
No, it's not bad. And like I said, with Jimmy Sands, it's like create players. The answer to Tata's thing, because going back, Tata had 80 million, Monterrey had 80 million, but Monterrey could spend 80 million over the whole roster. Tata just spent it on 9 guys.
Tata's a whiner too. It's like
true. However, the way you fix that is you create players, like players 9 through 15 to 20. That's how every club does. Even Bayern München, Real Madrid. Arsenal, they're creating players. Like, not every player is bought. They have players from their academy. That's where you get your depth. And that's where players come from. They don't hop out of holes. You know what I mean? All these 19-year-old Argentinians we're buying them from the academies of Argentina. So if you want to create real depth, and if you're not a European Super League, which most aren't, you have to create your own depth. And
yeah, I totally agree with you. And that's where in my opinion, the TAM initiative kind of did the same thing for the spots, whatever, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the roster, and that had a real impact.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the next wave. That needs to go a little deeper. Yeah.
It also could be as extreme as Mexico has done in the past, where you have like quotas. It doesn't have to get too common. There have to be whatever it is. I forgot they had a specific rule where it's like 2 to 6.
Yeah,
or some
but that's
crap
not.
like that.
It's not working for them either. They have this insular. Their national team has not gotten better.
True, that's more a separate issue. I think that's their lack of willingness to sell their players is why that's the case.
I think increasing the quality of the league overall is always the better way to go. If you have more Americans playing in a shittier league, it's going to help the national team help the top end less than if you have fewer at a higher level. And I think the way to raise the level is to get people from elsewhere.
Yeah, and so those the decisions they're making. It seems like slowly that's what they're doing. But you're right. This is not an overhaul or anything. This is just like we're slowly increasing what we already have. More DPs, more GAM. Another buyout. That's pretty much what they're doing. They're just nudging it along a little bit. And I'm curious what the summer transfer market's going to look like with these new rules.
Well, it seems like there's at least, I guess, depending on your. If I look at my team, we'll have 2 million. There'll be 2 million that there weren't before, and that'll go someplace. So we'll get somebody.
Yeah.
Our fancy Serbian striker is MIA. He's been missing. I don't know what's going on. He's got visa issues, I heard, or personal reasons. I don't know. Maybe he changed his mind.
We got a Manuel Reynoso situation on our hands here. What are we
I don't know, but he hasn't been around, and the guy in front of him, Mutsef Bakra, cannot hit the broadside of a barn to save his life. So a little competition would be good, but he is not. But everybody, Malachi Jones, our draft pick, a really lively guy. I was shocked he even made the team, but he gets minutes, came off the bench, and he had a real good chance and put it wide. Yeah, as a group, we are not hitting the target at the proper rate.
I think if the New York Red Bulls acquire one player over the summer, I think it would be another number 9. Just why not? I'd take another number 9, maybe another
They'll have to
center back.
pay off. They'll have to pay off Emil Forsberg's wife probably with these $2 million. They have to continue. Have to kick that into his divorce settlement.
Maybe. Who knows? He seems to not. It doesn't seem to be bothering him one bit. He's having a great time. It's not bothering us. The New York Red Bulls tied.
He's turning over a new leaf.
New York Red Bulls had a very dominant game. You see our almost goal. It hit both posts as a quick move.
It didn't go
one
in,
post,
though.
the other post.
Yeah,
So we just
those
couldn't
don't
get. But
count
still,
for anything.
overall, good game. Sandro Schwartz was happy. I was happy. Andres Reyes got himself a red card, but that's Andres Reyes, and still fun times. The Red Bulls. I love it. Keep it up. I want to talk about one last thing, unless you have other things you want to talk about.
If you have more stadium questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I will ask a couple stadium questions.
No, don't.
Well,
don't,
what
I'm
are
kidding.
you tell me? Ask what? Tell me what's going to be unique
No,
other than the
it's
community
just
involvement.
a nice thing. We've been waiting for years. I have no news to break. I got nothing to say. But it's it's fun to talk about.
Do you believe that stadium is going to be open by 2027?
Well, I would generally be quite skeptical of this. You're shaking your head.
I'm skeptical of that.
But they've been very it seems as if their scheduling is realistic. I mean, it's New York City. Who knows?
I think when DC United built their
hope so.
stadium, they announced 2009 or something, and then like a week into construction, like we found a giant cement structure underneath that's going to add a year. So
Well,
this
I
was just
don't think.
2010.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think there's been remediation. There's already stuff being built. The site, I don't think holds a lot of surprises. I don't know. I mean, there hasn't been any opposition. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Am I gonna be the one to say no? Definitely, it's going to be on. I mean, who knows? But it seems like there are some contingencies built in. It doesn't seem.
Maybe the gas lines need to be rebuilt under there.
Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Also, the DC United Stadium, it couldn't have
It's
been.
going to be
DC
all
United.
electric. Actually, it's an all electric stadium.
Oh, like the Audi
It's
e-tron.
not going to be any. Not going to be any gas.
Excellent. Yeah, but my example could have been DC United. It must have been a different stadium. I forgot. Well, anyway, the one last thing I wanted to bring up was Hans Wolf. What if they find Jimmy Hoffa?
Oh my god!
If they find Jimmy Hoffa, do they have to
that's it.
stop it and turn it into a
Going to be the
historical
Jimmy
site?
Hoffa Museum. Yeah.
Rumor has it he's built into the Meadowlands Stadium out in New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sure, there could be all kinds of things could happen.
Time for a David Villa statue, maybe? Is there a statue park area there?
David Villa. I mean, now Francisco Moya, Congressman Francisco Moya, is now the big hero because he
Approved it?
he made it happen, but he was gonna original because that was his thing. He wanted a soccer stadium in Queens in his district and Willets Point. And he hitched his wagon to the David Villa train and was, because there was Queensboro FC, the now defunct Queensboro FC, the lower level league. That David Villa was an investor, and they were going to build and that all fell apart. And partly, I guess, because that team fell apart, but also probably because of David Villa's reputation suffered.
That actually brings up a good point. That there's also been rumblings about MLS Next Pro sort of rebranding itself or refiguring itself,
right. There's,
where the junior teams aren't going to be NYCFC 2.
Yeah,
It's
they're
going to
get
be a
other
different
names.
team. Like the NYCFC 2 would be the Long Island Rough Riders out in Nassau County.
Yeah, that one makes sense. Or that Staten Island baseball stadium they could use.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
something like that.
Right.
So yeah, it's a fun development.
Yeah,
but the last thing I wanted to bring up.
Yes.
was,
What is the last thing?
I finally got around. I realized I still have a Paramount Plus subscription or something because it's working for me. I finally got around to watching The $1 Billion Goal, a documentary that Grant Wall did. 10 out of 10.
Really?
It is
okay.
it is a 3-part. First off, it's a nice homage to Grant Wall. Rest in peace. Not a day goes by where I don't realize that there's a huge hole in American soccer media coverage left behind by Grant Wall.
It's true.
Especially in the modern day era of Apple TV, state-run media fluff.
The government. Yeah.
I would love for Grant Wall.
Soviet style reporting.
I would love for Grant Wall to be around right now fighting back, but he just ain't, and no one's really replacing him. But anyway, but the more important thing was, I'm a huge U.S. soccer history nerd, American soccer history nerd. You know this, Bjorn. They take 3 episodes and pretty much gives you a crash course of complete American soccer history in it. And they have so much footage and interviews and all this footage I didn't even know existed. They just had so much great footage of like.
Oh, I got to see it.
Of
That's
like
exciting.
like all the stories I've heard about. They then showed you footage of it and interviewed the people that were there. And it's like, oh, wow, this is a much more detailed take on stuff I've only heard of before. So it is a great rundown of American soccer history and also a great, essentially it boils down to that goal in 89. Like if that never happened, then nothing would have, like American soccer would have never happened. 94 would have been canceled, you know, and just, you know, the EPL would have never gotten popular. Like, none of it would have happened. The women's team would have never happened after that. So it just boils down to everything building up to that goal being like the beginning point to what's the modern day of American soccer fandom. And it's like, I know, it's very cool. So 2 thumbs up for $1 Billion Goal on Paramount Plus.
All right. Awesome. I'll watch it.
Check it out, one and all. Okay.
Very good.
That's it for
Okay.
me. All right. We did
I'll
it.
put the music on.
Yeah. We did
Stayed
American
under an
soccer.
hour. Very good. Very disciplined.
There's a lot to talk about in MLS.
It's a lot to talk about.
With the big news.
We got a stadium. We won a game. Let's
Yes.
do another hour. Let's talk about it again.
60 P's. Tom. Hello,
Tom.
Tom.
Peace,
Always
Tom.
over. Peace, Tom. All right. Cheers. Bis nächste Woche. Good night, Huntsville.
Tschüss. Good night.